Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, board recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Icewind, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. If you are playing characters of Robin, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed, this is not the right stream for you, but for the rest of you, welcome. Warning that there will be spoilers. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. Watch all of our D&D sessions and reviews here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Rogue Watson and join our official Discord server. Invite link into the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net, and for streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It is about 1,000 degrees right now in Texas. A little warm. Unseasonably warm, I would say. I think we're in for a really nasty summer. But the folks in Icewind are in for a really nasty winter, and we are preparing for session 50, the big 5-0, which I already did my big, cool 1-year anniversary, stat thing a few weeks ago, so I don't have anything big planned for session 50, honestly, but it's a cool milestone to hit anyway. We'd never, I don't think, hit the session 100 on the campaigns yet, but 50 is still pretty nifty. 50 is nifty. And we kind of ended in an awkward place where I don't know how much more Yarmouth I really need to discuss. I mean, I guess we can talk about this final fight coming up, but otherwise I kind of need to move on and start planning other things, because this fight may last the whole session or it may not, depending on if the players do some other things to shut it down as they did before, and then they can get out of it, in which case that's why I kind of told them, hey, maybe we need to prepare for, leveling up, because I think, in fairness, I want to stick to my schedule of approximately leveling them up after every 2 areas. Now, the Shardland dig site was an exception because that was a huge story moment, and we were in there for quite a few sessions, but for most of these, I think generally every 2 areas, and by 2 areas I mean a lot of this chapter 2 content that I'm kind of scaling up and fitting in this second act of this campaign. Accomplishing those is basically worth level up and some rewards. I gave the players a lot of good loot. We talked about it a lot on last Monday's stream. Hey, thank you. Yeah, 5K subscribers is pretty cool. Lazy DM. Hey, Nate, Pythagoras. Awesome to see you all. I did a bunch of giveaways on the Discord server. A bunch of folks won some really cool stuff. It was really fun to be able to give back to everybody and use that and do that as an excuse for celebrating the 5,000 subscribers milestone, which is also pretty cool. Lots of fun milestones we're hitting. Thank you for that. Let's see. We need to go ahead and move all the players out of here, don't we? Have been cutscened out of here with a giant goat and a reindeer. I love that Edmund summoned these animals specifically to help with the puzzle, which, yeah, I think the puzzle went pretty good, and I talked about that a lot on Frostside chat. I don't do a lot of postmortems on the crafting too much, because we do them kind of on Frostside chat, but yeah, I really enjoyed the way it worked, and I can't take credit for it again. It all came from the Roll20 marketplace, but the way I tweaked it, introduced it, and then just it fit really well in this particular area, and it really hit that nice pacing of the players. Never felt like they were super stuck, but they were always kind of working towards a goal and had several aha moments and needed a little bit of nudging and prodding from me at certain moments. And I think that's a skill that you learn from being a DM for a while, but also knowing your players for a while, and just kind of realizing that moment where, okay, I don't want to jump in too soon, but it's like having that dynamic difficulty where, if you're sucking in a game and a game pops up and says hey, do you need a hint, or do you want to skip past this part or something? Except as a DM, you don't have to do that directly. You can just say, hey, here, I'm going to give you this kind of hint, or maybe, roll me a check, and then that allows you to see this other clue. Just a few little proddings. Otherwise, I thought it went pretty well, and it was a lot of fun. So the big finale for Yarmouth is that they come outside. They think they're done, but they're not quite, because we've got Bergelmir, the real frost giant, with Francine, the mammoth, waiting for them. This is something that this campaign does a lot of, and I think I've mentioned this before on different crafting streams. The fact that a lot of times when you exit the dungeon, there's another threat, and they do this in so many of the areas and dungeons. It's almost like a weird running joke where, like, every time you leave a place, it's like, oh, there's a new threat waiting for you. Like Mountain Climb, you leave and there's a Yeti. In the Mead Must Flow, you leave and there's like a second Verbeeg. In the Lost Spire, you leave and there's like an orc party. It's such a weird pacing issue too, because a lot of times when you leave the dungeon, like, all right, that's when you can go and, you know, go back, rest up, and then go on our next adventuring day. It's like we've already peaked in terms of the pacing of this dungeon. We've done the boss, we've completed the dungeon, whatever. But and ironically, this one has it too, I believe. Whenever you actually, it might be whenever you're going down into Yarmouth, that's when your guide attacks you. So I don't know if it actually happens when you're leaving. Or no, it is happening when you're leaving. There is a frost giant that happens actually. If we go to, let's see, chapter 2, places of interest, Yarmouth. I think that's exactly what happens. I just used the same frost giant. Leaving Yarmouth, yeah, there's a frost giant that shows up, and she's hostile, and once, tries to claim it for herself, needs a test. Yep. So yeah, that's something that happens here, and in this particular case, I'm using it because I think it's fun. It's a fun excuse because this frost giant was the one who initially, told him about this site, and that was his grand plan. And the reason he actually gave it up was so that they could do it's a very classic, like, fun action movie villain thing to do also, is like where you can reveal the villains like one step ahead by, you know, the players do the, Indiana Jones goes in and does the thing and emerges, or James Bond or whatever, and then the villain is there going, aha, thank you for doing all the work, and now I'll pluck and take the item from you. However, in this case, that's obviously it's pretty hard to rob players, and they're certifiably badass, so I fully expect them to fight back here. Although I also expect them to kind of engage in the social scene, which I need to be very careful, because I really do want to have this be at least a little bit of a fight, because I do feel like I was robbed of my battle with this frost giant earlier, and they kind of kicked my ass during the arena fight as well. So I'm kind of up for a little bit of a fight here. And if you notice, the players are in really bad shape. I did not let them even short rest after this arena fight. Now, Frey does, I believe, have 1 rage left, which is a huge key, and she's still regenerating. However, the rest of them, I think Celeste has barely any key points left. Collectively, they have very few spell slots, and if you notice, 3 of them are, like, blinking red in terms of how low of hit points they are. Celeste, Thimbleweed, and Edmund just really can't even take a single hit. So they're all doing real bad shape. So that's going to make this fight very interesting. What I'm tempted to do is at the very beginning of the session, even though I know they're going to want to socialize, because obviously I've got the Frost Giant with the classic villainous, like, knife to the throat of a hostage situation, I think I'm going to put them in initiative, because I do want to try to motivate them to turn this into a fight. And I think mechanically I'm going to let the Frost Giant have essentially surprised the players. However, with his surprise round, he is readying an action. I don't know if I can legally do that or not, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But essentially, it looks like he is poised to kill the goblin if the players don't immediately hand over the magic items. And you could say, well, can the players just say, oh, we didn't find anything, but they don't have a bag of holding or anything, so very clearly he can at least see the magic javelin, and I'll probably play it where he would know. Like, maybe they're like legendary artifacts that he knows that that would be in there that these guys would have recovered, and he can see that they had already emerged from the vault, so clearly they had done that much. And will I allow deception checks or not? I don't know, but he would. They're really not in any kind of position to negotiate. Like, he would absolutely try and swagger, and frankly, the Mammoth is very pissed at Valravn, so that could also play into it very well. But we'll see. I don't want to overplan things, so I know the players are going to be up their sleeves with different things. The only we can do is look at the spell slots they have left and maybe try to anticipate. But if you notice, his Goblin Captive only has 7 hit points, so I don't even have to do something violent like slit her throat or something. I can literally just throw her, like huck this Goblin violently, of course, and because he's atop a Mammoth, which a Mammoth got to be a 10-foot fall, right? From there, I mean, maybe they're not 10 feet big, but it's pretty close. And then the Giant is he's 20 feet tall, so if he's sitting, like, he's got to be another 10 feet. So, I mean, his Giant can throw. So I have to imagine if he's throwing somebody who's got fewer than 10 hit points, they're just going to die from the falling damage. So it doesn't even really have to do anything super violently other than just, like, huck this fucking Goblin. But I'll probably make it juicy and maybe throw her against the chairs or something. Or maybe not. Maybe the players will do something. I would love if they really tried to protect her in some way. All we can do is look at their spell slots and see what they can do. Elephant never forgets, and a mammoth never forgets to kill. So Valravn he's got a 3rd level spell slot, which means he does not have Charm Monster or Greater Invisibility. I think Charm Monster is what he used on Francine. He does have Suggestion. He does have Suggestion. Just a course of activity, magically influence creature you see within range. It can hear and understand you. Yeah, so he could do that. You son of a bitch. This is why I'm going to put them down to initiative, though. I think this is going to be very important. And then the one nice thing about Valravn is he does have disadvantage on initiative. But man, do I always shit the bed on initiative, which is very annoying. Suggestion could be a problem. Although he can't suggest both of them, he can only suggest either the mammoth or the giant. Morgan, a woman mammoth scorned. Would you call it a man mammoth, though? I think we can just call her a mammoth. That's okay. Man mammoth sounds like a Marvel character. What does Thimbleweed have spell-wise? This is how we anticipate what the player's going to do. Oh, he is completely... Oh, no, he's not. He's got 3 second-level spell slots randomly. No first levels. So he could basically cast any of his things. Web. Magic Weapon, Hunter's Mark. None of his stuff is crazy. Tangle, I guess, could be kind of a pain in the butt. He doesn't really cast that one much. And Edmund. Understand, not for me. Oh, it does have to understand you. We can only cast it on the giant. That would still fuck me up pretty bad, though. He can hear and understand you, you're right. Oh, who can hear and understand you? The giant, you could argue, can't understand common that well. He only knows broken common, so I could be a real dick. And maybe I would give him advantage. You could rule like maybe he's got advantage because he can't really understand him. But that could be a possibility because there's literally a language barrier. So that could be a thing. What does Edmund have? Edmund is down to 2 first-level spell slots. Doesn't give him much. Healing Word, Cure Wounds, Jump, Sanctuary, Disguise Self. And I believe Celeste only has 1 spell slot. Frey, however, does have a Rage. But more importantly, she's still regenerating from the Troll Heart. So she is nigh unkillable still. Especially if she's raging. If she's raging and that. The thing is, I just can't focus fire her too much, which I like. There was a comment earlier, throw a net on her. Yeah, straining her is a great move. For a He-Man villain, that's very true. Did you watch that new He-Man? It's not called He-Man. What's it called? Is it just called Masters of the Universe? On Netflix? It's weird. The story's weird. The back half is better than the first half, I guess, but it's really high quality like animation and voice acting. They have like half the Game of Thrones like actors as voice actors. But the story is a bold choice, I'll say that. A bold choice. Problem is his action activated his universal speech. Oh, that's true. He does have that, doesn't he? Getting harder and harder to anticipate what the players do with all these things, isn't there? Oh, that's true. It is an action though, yeah. So, yeah. Which I think he did a similar thing last time where he did one thing and then did the Charm Monster again later. So yeah, he could do it in 2 rounds. He could use an universal speech first and then be able to cast Suggestion on the giant. Worthwhile. It's probably worth it. Like I said, the animation, the production values are really high. But I also get why a lot of people were annoyed with it, especially in the first half. I don't know how far away I should start everybody either. Kind of a hill right here, but as you can see, there's just not much map going on. Hell, that's actually... It's going to make it so they can't even close in on one turn, isn't it? That's interesting. They'd have to dash. Ooh, I should set them up to where I don't have to dash, but they do have to dash. Oops, that was the wrong button. Knows Valravn is a problem. Yeah. I don't know what he can necessarily do about it other than just focus on Valravn. But that, yes, he would, and that is interesting. This is an enemy that has fought the players before, so he's fully aware of like how powerful Frey is physically and how powerful Valravn is spellcastery, and would hopefully know what to do tactics-wise based on that. Mammoth's got a 40-foot speed, and it can charge as long as it can move 20 feet. So the interesting thing is if I actually win the initiative order, could just fucking, well, I don't know. He'd probably still ready action. He would still give the players a chance, technically, to give up their loot and walk away, which that is an option the players have. They could give up the loot. The giant would demand all 3 pieces. He knows they're in there, and he sees the javelin, so he just knows they've got it. He probably wouldn't know about the potions necessarily, but if they were literally willing to give up, what was it, the boots, the ring, and the javelin, essentially all the hard-earned loot they get, they could give it to the giant. The giant would, I don't know, probably still throw the fucking goblin in just, but get out of there. Like, he's not in it to kill them. But we all know the players aren't gonna fucking do that. Now they may try and do some trickery, which I'm always down to see what they're gonna do, and maybe try and, I don't know what they could possibly do. They don't have any kind of illusion magic, because I was thinking they could try to do something clever there, and I'm down for that as long as this does eventually equal a fight. But I do want to give them a fighting chance to try to save the goblin. It's not my intention to just unfairly murder the shit out of this goblin, but that is on the table. That is 100% on the table. I will murder the fuck out of this goblin if they fuck up. That is something that can happen. Notice how I didn't murder the shit out of their reindeer, so I'm not going to strand them here necessarily, but they could lose their beloved driver. And yeah, I should never bet on getting initiative. It's just probably not going to happen. But just in case, we are just close enough, I think, to be able to charge into them. I could bring them a little bit closer. Something like this, maybe. Beasts be flanking behind Edmund. Yeah, that way they're not close enough to actually engage right away, so they'd have to dash or cast a spell or throw or do something, where the giant does have the distance advantage. I like that. Or Ballista. I'd be shocked if your players gave it that loot. You and me both. I would be utterly shocked. That's never going to happen, which is why I set it up like that. Players will never part from their loot, is thing I have learned. But yeah, the giant, I did add I enhanced his stat block by letting him throw the net every round. This reminds me of the fact that I never got to fucking use this guy. He only lasted like 1 round during that last battle. But he can throw his net, and I can just say he's got unlimited nets, whatever. He's got them all like attached to the mammoth. He can hurl the net, and it's a ranged attack with only a +5. But then he can also make his attacks at the same time. It's also got pretty solid save. I mean, a +3 wisdom save is pretty good for against suggestion. Good NPC. Yeah, that's why they're the best NPCs. Will we bug catch the goblin if she's thrown? Maybe. The tricky thing is how much, because I'm gonna have everybody in an initiative. Remember, I'm 90% into doing that at the beginning, just because that breaks up the action to, okay, what do you do now? What do you do now? Versus making this a tricky social / plan situation, because it's a very tense moment. If this were like, okay, we're sneaking around, we see the giant doing this, then we're not an initiative, we can plan what we're doing. But in this case, you're all very aware of each other, and essentially this is a hostile enemy. The only way he turns off being hostile is if you immediately turn over that loot. And that's why I think I'm tempted to put everybody in initiative order, and then they can just figure it out from there. And if they want to just go hostile and start fighting, then I'm prepared for that. And then because the problem is the giant would, I guess I could choose. I could choose to either have him ready to throw that giant and throw the goblin, immediately kill the goblin as a way of like really setting the tone here. That's his like ready to action. Or I could allow the players that first round, maybe they're like, okay, I'll do this, I'll go in here, I'll do that, and work toward trying to save the goblin, in which case I would probably let them do that just because I want to see that unfold. And so maybe I'd let them have that first round, especially if it eats up their actions doing that. That's really good for me, right? They spend it, if Edmund spends a turn or Thimbleweed spends a turn, like getting into position and casting spells just to save the goblin, then not only is that, I think, satisfying from a story standpoint, but it helps take away their focus from attacking the giant, who's going to be attacking the shit out of them. So I think that could actually be, that might work pretty well. So maybe I won't be hucking that goblin just yet. We'll kind of depend on how things go, but I do think I'll be throwing the players into initiative right away. Boy, I love the size difference too. These giants are just freaking enormous. So crazy to be. Look at that little goblin, like literally just fits on a little wrist right there. Poor Ballista. She's been treated all right though. I feel like she's left behind in most cases, and here the left behind was not a very safe area. And I just don't know if this fight is going to last a whole session or not. I mean, it doesn't seem like it will. I feel like they've taken out, I mean, they fought, 4, frost giant skeletons, a whole bunch of other shit. Now this guy's stronger than any of the skeletons are technically, and the mammoth is better than the mammoth zombie, but ultimately, they're not that much stronger. So it seems horrifying, but I don't think it's that horrifying. Also, do I have them as too large here? I think they might actually be too big. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I don't think they're supposed to be 30 by 30, right? Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're actually too big. I think I put them on the different map. I don't know where it would say that. He's huge. Are the reindeer large? So he should only be one bigger than the reindeer. Okay. So yeah, these guys are actually too big. Let's put you back down. Oh, you have the little symbol still on you. That's funny. No longer mind control. Actually, that's how big they are. Okay. Which is still much larger than a person, but yeah, that had them way too big. Okay, there we go. There we go. That's better, because like he can sit in this throne, in the throne. Yeah, huge. Okay. Which is 3 by 3 on this map. Alright, that was throwing me off. Slightly less impressive now. But I can put them. Yeah, let's still put you in. Ooh, can I put you in 40 feet of Valravn? That'd be great if I could charge Valravn. Move Frey here. Put Ballista there. As Frey's not within 30 feet of me, so let's back up. Back up a lot more. Ugh. Valravn to be. Well, seems unfair. I don't think he'd be the first one out necessarily. Let's go one to the left. This is an interesting case where I can just set the tone of the spacing. Alright, there we go. So now I'm in range of everybody, and nobody's in range of me, because the mammoth's got a 40-foot speed, and these guys all have... Well, Celeste actually can reach me, but that's fine. She can come up. I guess Frey could, too. They're not going to kill me in one hit. Frey does have pretty good... Does she? Yeah, I guess Barbarians do actually have good movement speed. I probably can't actually outdistance either of them. Yeah, she's got a 40. You're right. Both Frey and Celeste, the two marshals, are just insanely going to close in. So they're as fast as a charging mammoth, in fact. I mainly want to be able to run down Valravn and just skewer his ass. That dude has survived so much. Him and Thimbleweed, man. Oh my gosh. I haven't gotten a down PC in a long time. In fact, pull up the stats. My last downed PC. Any guesses? Last time a PC hit 0 hit points. Yeah, that's right. The answer was basically I cheated, which was the big final fight of the Shardle and Dig site, which was session 43, where I literally had Thimbleweed's bug like burst out of him. And I... Oh, Noah, you know, that's right. I'm reading my note. I reduced him to 1 hit point, which is also kind of cheating, and his bug burst out of him. And then later in that same fight, he healed up, and then he did go down to 0 legitimately, but that's because I took out a lot of his hit points doing that, so it was kind of an asterisk on that one. That was the first time I'd taken him down. Session 43, so it's been a while. Yeah, Thumbleed in the Caves. You guys got it. No, so this hasn't gone down till since 33, and that's when she died. Which, you know, makes sense. You have a lot earlier on, and then fewer deaths as you get later, just because players are harder to kill, man. And tough. I think that's all we need to talk about for Yarmouth, though. Like I said, depending on how long the social stuff lasts, it could be a big fight, and then if it ends up early enough, then we'll go back to town, and I've got the players will say, hey, you guys have prepped your next level up. Let's just level up at the end of this session instead of the beginning of next session. So that's really the way I can manipulate the pacing and the time. Is just, if this fight takes a long time, then fine, we'll go back to town, long rest, and we'll level up next time. Or if it doesn't, we still have, 30 or 45 minutes left, then let's go back to town, long rest, and level up, right now, get everybody to level 9, which I think we're still on track. If we level up to 9. So here's my pacing rundown real quick. We started at level 2. We did Foaming Mugs and Beautiful Mine, both from chapter 1. Then we got to level 3. We ran Mountain Climb and The Unseen, chapter 1, both of them. We went to level 4, and we ran Black Swords and Mead Must Flow, also both chapter 1. Ran 6 chapter 1 quests. Then we leveled up to 5, and I ran Corkaloak and Cave of the Berserkers from chapter 2, and then Sunblight from chapter 3. That was a big, long one. Then we leveled to 6 and just did Destruction's Light, but that was a big, long, 6 or 7 session scenario. Then we leveled to 7. We went to the Shardle and Dig site. That's all we did, but we leveled up to 8, and then we did Dark Duchess and Yarmouth. So, where are they going to go next? I don't know. I think I'm going to probably plan It Ascendant next, because if they end up doing the Goliaths or Lost Spire, I can trigger It Ascendant. And then it would probably work out best. Let's tentatively plan this for a second. So they're going to be level 9. And then they'll do, let's say, It Ascendant and Goliaths. And then they'll get to 10. And then they can do Lost Spire and Revel's End. They get to 11. Then we've got the Island of Solstice. And then at level 11, they do Island of Solstice and Grim Scala at 11. Then we get to 12. And at that point, I think we just have Caves of Hunger left, and we enter the third and final act, starting at level 12, instead of ending the whole campaign at that level. So then we've got Caves of Hunger at level 12, which is a giant mega dungeon. And then Ithrin, when we complete Caves of Hunger and get to Ithrin, we'll be level 13. When we complete the towers, this is going to be a lot trickier to plan because I'm going to use the expanded towers. But let's assume we complete the majority of Ithrin, we get to 14. And then we unlock the way to the boss. And then that still has us probably ending the campaign at 14, unless I literally stop them like before the final boss fight and level up to 15, or it's like you beat the campaign and now you level up to 15. But yeah, the pacing's still right on track. In other words, it feels like we're leveling up, going to level out of it, but because I've got it planned for that, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. So yeah, let's plan on Id Ascendant. The only reason they wouldn't run into Id Ascendant is they decided to go to Revel's End next, which screws up a lot of my pacing if they do that, but that's fine. Because I just feel like it's weird to put Id Ascendant up here, because I feel like this would be a more trafficked area versus the southeast side. And Id Ascendant is going to be a lot like, kind of like Yarmouth was here, where they didn't even know about Yarmouth when they first set off for the adventuring day. So in other words, they're going to go towards, yeah, they are level 8 right now. They're currently level 8, and then they're about to hit 9. So a lot of these, I like a lot of these Chapter 2 quests. The big thing is I'm scaling them up. So yeah, let's talk about Id Ascendant, because I think it's a really cool idea with a really flawed introduction. I mean, who the hell doesn't like a crashed Nautiloid Mind Flayer ship? Which, by the way, if you haven't played any Baldur's Gate 3, which I haven't played since it first came out on Early Access, which was like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. Really fucking cool introduction. One of the coolest RPG intros I've ever experienced, I think. That involves a Nautiloid ship. And we're gonna have to scale the hell out of this thing up, because these are all, what, level 5 and 6, I think we determined? Chapter is designed for characters of 4th level or higher. I believe it says once they have 6th, or once they reach 7th level, you should no longer gain levels by exploring locations or surviving random encounters in this chapter. But basically, they're designed for levels 4 through 6. So at level 9, I'm gonna have to scale the shit out of this up for starters. And the other problem is, I think this place works best as a twist, where you think you're going into these really nasty, horrifying enemies. And Celeste has obviously a very close tie-in to what's going on here, because this is her backstory. She was actually abducted by these aliens. So you're thinking, all right, we gotta fight these evil aliens. And the twist is gonna be they're not actually evil aliens. They're kind of, at least the way I'm gonna roleplay them too, they're kind of just lovable, I guess sociopathic in a way, but only because their culture is just so different. Like, they don't think anything of, taking people and experimenting on them, and maybe they think they're doing a service because they end up enhancing a lot of people, that have capabilities of, I don't know, psionic capabilities. Maybe they're saying, hey, we're the ones that can, evolve you in a way, and you should be thanking us, kind of a thing. And hopefully I make it, they're really funny, but also funny in like a dark way, kind of, where they're clearly messed up a little bit. Which also means, even though they are gnome seramorphs, I might need to go ahead and use the full Mind Flayer stat blocks. I think the reason they're gnome seramorphs is to dumb down the Mind Flayer stat block, because this is only a CR5, even though they are equipped with laser pistols, which is pretty fucking cool. I do plan on letting the players get their hands on some laser weaponry. This reminds me of a Fallout quest, by the way. More the old Fallout games than the new ones, but I guess the new ones did that too a little bit, especially Fallout New Vegas, where it was just really batshit random, like, encounter where you'd see like a crashed UFO, and nothing to do with any kind of theme or anything that was going on, but you just got to loot it, and you'd find like an alien body, but you found like a laser pistol, and you're like, oh shit, this is cool. Like, this is very much reminds me of that. Although this obviously does have lore in this universe. So yeah, I think for starters, we're going to use regular Mind Flayers, which I don't think I've ever had a chance to use in any of my campaigns. In fact, I'm not sure anybody has used a Mind Flayer. Well, you know what? I technically had one in Sunblight, didn't I? And I never followed up with it, I don't think. I think we all forgot about it. That Mind Flayer, who the player is basically freed and then is kind of left alone. I don't remember. Did we have a epilogue for that Mind Flayer? I really don't remember. I should have left notes for that guy. They freed him, and then he couldn't really do much, and Celeste didn't want to really turn over her Psi Crystal to him, which was fair. I mean, they are these scourge of sentient creatures across countless worlds. Wild Wasteland, yeah, that's right, because you can like buy into if you want to see that stuff or not. Yeah, the default Mind Flayer is a lot better. CR7, 15 armor class, 70 hit points. I think that's the main difference, is These are just weaker versions, which I can still use. I like the fact that they're gnome Ceramorphs. And maybe that just makes them a little goofier. But I still like the higher level stat block here. 48 plus 4. Actually, the Mind Blast is the same. Are all the ND10, Extract Brain, 2D10 plus 4? Yeah, that's the offense is the same. Is it just the defenses? Detect Thoughts and Levitate at will. That's cool. So they should be constantly doing Detect Thoughts and Levitate. Oh man, that's cool. Have a once per day dominate monster and plane shift, so they can just escape from a fight. Edmund, Celeste, and Valravn can all already shoot laser blasts and now fray with the javelin. That's kind of true. How fun are laser rifles, really? But really, the only thing I really need to change is just give them more armor class and hit points, right? Oh wait, the Ceramorph has more AC. 16, okay. They do have a gnome strength, though. They left him eating dead brains of the Dwargar. Alright. Maybe he's crawled his way back in this much time. I don't have a good way of following up with that character, but this would be a good opportunity for it, wouldn't it? It'd be really tricky for that Mind Flare to make it all the way out here. And then how would he interact with the ones in here, too? Might be too much. Yeah, I'll have to... Okay, so these guys are basically the same. I don't know why their challenge rating has dropped so low, then. The only thing they lack is the hit points and 5 less speed. Still have magic resistance. They still have all their... And they have all of this plus a laser pistol. This is a deceptively low challenge rating, although we all know how stupid challenge ratings can be. Then they're a low strength. Alright, so I'm just going to give these guys more hit points then. So 13d8 plus 13. 70 and 76. Let's just do that. Dreadivex is a cool name. Yeah, but we just saw it. Was it not basically the same Mind Flayer stat block? And in fact, these guys actually have higher AC, I think, because they're smaller. But otherwise, it looked like they had the exact same stat block. Plus, they have a laser pistol. They have the same spells. They have the same offensive. I think they have the same offenses. Tentacles have the same stats. Yeah, medium or smaller, it's grappled. Oh, the escape DC on the grapple is a lot lower. That's the difference. Because of its low strength, I guess. Because they're not as good at grappling people and extracting their brains. I mean, mainly you want to be mind blasting, I think. Or shooting your laser pistol anyway. It doesn't have multi-attack, that's kind of weird. Really, you can fire that pistol off a few times. Orin's got... I will give them more hit points, though. 6. So let's read about the problem that I know that this area has. Spacefaring Mind Flayer is hoping to capture some interesting species for study. Crash their ship, a nautiloid called the Ascendant, while trying to fly it through a blizzard. The ship's co-captains, Orin and Dreadivex, are chaotic neutral gnome Ceramorphs, are smaller than normal Mind Flayers spawned from gnome hosts. Their crew consists of 3 gnome squidlings named Rin, Rex, and Ziglard. Now that's the problem, is the squidlings are just complete bullshit. I may actually redesign their stat blocks. I think they're literally, yeah, like 10 hit point nothings. Pretty funny looking, though. Giant tentacles for some reason. They're not even baby squidlings. It's like the process has gone wrong. They have magic resistance, and they have, yeah, plus zeros to hit. Their Mind Blast does 1d4 damage. They're just nothings. Babies that are just non-combatants, basically. They're also stuck unless they find a Psi Crystal to jumpstart the ship's propulsion system. Oh, shit. You know, if I want to keep that, that could actually be another way they get to the island. Because I'm thinking that can be my... you know, the way open world games gate end game areas is because you can't physically reach them. You know, either there's a sealed off portal or a gate, or there's a mountain you can't get over, or it's across the ocean or something. And the way I was thinking is the way that the players are gated from getting to Grim Scala and Island of Solstice, which is the finale for Act 2, is, and that's what's gated off. So they have to be able to go to these different areas and complete them. They'll need to go to Revel's End just to advance the story enough to realize that's where they need to go. But then they'll need something to get over there, which I was thinking the Goliaths would be a good opportunity because they've got the Griffins. They could all hop on Griffins over there. But then I'm realizing, oh wait, the Ascendant, they could literally just help these, or take it over, I guess, and figure out how to fly the damn thing themselves. And then they've got this fucking ship they can use to get around, which I'm not opposed to because it would solve the issue of how to get to Grim Scala. And the nice thing is, this doesn't help them in the end game because they still have to park it outside of the iceberg, get out, and then they don't have it for all of Act 3, basically. But, yeah, they could, James said, you trade in their fucking reindeer-pulled wagon for a battle cruiser. Battle cruiser operational. Carrier has arrived. StarCraft. That's my high school right there, man. StarCraft. with the same group that I'm playing D&D with now. 20 years ago. I'll drink to that. They also can't trust the moronic squidlings to accomplish this delicate task. For these reasons, gnome xenomorphs need help. They built a device that can detect the presence of Psi crystals in a 5-mile radius. They haven't found any. Characters might have harvested Psi crystals from the gem mine near Tourmaline, which they have, which is such a great callback. Because that was literally one of the first missions they've done. So they've had this Psi crystal forever. It's a shame that Celeste has basically all but forgotten about it and hasn't used it in forever, but it's a good callback to be like, hey, you know, while you guys are traveling to the mountain or why anything. And I think I've tried to like blink that a couple times whenever they're traveling like in the eastern side a little bit to denote that the Psi crystals, you know, it is faintly active and pulling towards something. Yeah, travel's interesting at tier 1. Now let's fly the ship. Yeah, that's very true. And at this point, with their level, that would actually be a really cool reward for them to get. So maybe I don't actually have to give them a big reward here because they just got 2 back-to-back huge treasure hauls between Dark Duchess and Yarmouth. So it would be helpful if this location, instead of having a lot of sexy treasure, just had a new fucking travel system for them. And they can either do it by working with the Mind Flayers, helping accomplish their task to doing the Psi Crystal, or they can obviously just kill everything that moves, and then you could maybe rule that Celeste could just plug her Psi Crystal in there and control the ship, and maybe she's got memories flooding her or something else. But we do need to add some, you know, hazard, some kind of challenge here. I would either certainly have maybe and the fun thing I think to do is the fact that Ascendant has been kidnapping different creatures and experimenting on them. So one thing you could have fun with here is that there are these pods, and maybe some of them have cracked open, and then you've got random monsters, kind of like the one they've got, I think, now still in their wagon, which is the one from Korkalok. But you could have those monsters kind of out and about. It gets a little bit weird because it's been over 2 weeks since this Ascendant thing supposedly crashed, because Celeste was on this thing. So unfortunately, I've got that timing, and I guess you could just rule that maybe the eggs only just recently cracked or something. But it would be weird if these animals that are not native to this biome have been literally just roaming around this area for like 2 weeks. I feel like they would have died by then, most of them. Maybe not. I don't know. But that could be maybe even a quest they get from the Ceramorphs is, hey, can you go gather some of the creatures, which feels very video gamey. Hey, go outside and gather some monsters for us, please. One can manage the damage done by the crash, the Nautiloid's life support system. Once the system shuts down, the Illithids are at risk of freezing to death. The shutdown occurs before they acquire a Psy Crystal. The gnomes most backup plans to activate the Nautiloid's self-destruct system before abandoning the ship, making their way toward 10 towns with the gnomes Squidling in tow. I'm sure that would go well. Vorn and Dridivax want to leave Icewind Dale and return to the stars. They call home with their squiddling broodmates and a couple of interesting new creatures or discoveries. They retain their gnomish curiosity and love of tinkering, now blended with the Illithid's drive for control and experimentation, which sounds great. They are delighted to meet visitors who are willing to help them acquire a Psy Crystal, or failing that, help them and the gnome squidlings infiltrate 10 towns. In exchange, the gnome Ceramorphs are willing to part with their laser pistols and the magic items in Area N9. We give them their own pistols. They've already got the Psy Crystal. One drive expert of loud and gnomish or undercommon with an accent best described as gooey. Warren is persnickety and exasperated most of the time, but also has a dry sense of humor. Dredivix is industrious and likes to ease tension by telling crude jokes it has learned from eating goblin brains. There, any of the gnome squidlings are threatened, the Ceramorphs react with deadly intent, otherwise they shun combat. I love that we get these fun little role-playing notes. The problem is, and all of that sounds great, right? That all sounds great, but the problem is the first thing the players get to when they enter this place, which is down here, because these are the upper levels. In fact, did they... Okay, good. They segmented all that off dynamic lighting-wise. The first thing you see when you walk in is a bunch of weird tentacle creatures roaming around and a fucking flesh golem. So obviously it's just boom, roll for initiative, and you fight. And then if you're killing the gnome squidlings, then obviously you're just going to be hostile to the bigger gnomes when they come down. It's a very poorly designed dungeon because it sounds like this whole time you're building up to a social encounter, but it's almost impossible for the players not to get into a fight with the way it's designed right here. So that's something I definitely need to change. James, that's a great fucking idea. There should be automated encounters in here. Automated defenses, sorry. Yeah, you could have some fun laser turrets and oh man, you could go really crazy with this. You could have monsters who are like have been cybernetically altered or have psionic powers or something that have been dominated by the mind flayers, or you could do some kind of robot things. Like you could go really crazy. And I think that would be a fun thing, is especially if I know there's going to be a social encounter when they get beyond room N2, then I think you can start with that combat fight and start with the fact that it's gonna be a fight, and they think, okay, this is gonna be a room-to-room dungeon crawl. And then after they complete that fight, then the twist is these mind flayers come up and they've got pistols drawn, but they're like, oh, you brought us a Psy Crystal, thank you so much. And the players are like, wait, what? And then that's the fun twist, the fact that you can actually work with these guys, even though you kind of fought your way in. But that only works if you're not killing like their fucking children. Do you give them any laser weapons? You let them use it to travel. I allowed it a little bit. Ranger, Sierra, yes on both probably, although as folks have been saying, most of my players already have the equivalent of lasers. I've got a Sun Soul Monk who basically shoots lasers. Valravn I modified the Chardalyn Gauntlet from Zardarok, so he's got that to shoot lasers with. And then Edmund has a mechanical arm, which he also got from Sunblight, that he can turn into a like Samus from Super Metroid laser, or Mega Man maybe, laser arm cannon, and fire that as a laser. So it's a little overdone for me, but I mean, depending on the stats, it's just funny that normally I think laser rifles would be very sexy to give to players and they'd be really happy about it. But compared to the items my players have right now, they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll put it on the pile, I guess. Now, if I give them some fucking like plasma grenades or something, then they'll probably be on board. I think it'd be fun to give them a variety. I think you could give them like, hey, here's some, here's a spacey med kit that's like Chaogtum's ointment or something. You can use so many times. And here's, here's a plasma grenade. And here, you can give them different kind of things. Here's a device that gives you an advantage on this kind of check or something. And they're all kind of sci-fi themed. So yeah, I don't have any of the specifics of what creatures or anything I want to use yet. Gnome squidlings have a blind hunger for brains, often overrides our common sense. Beyond such base hunger, gnome squidlings don't know what they want. They have the reasoning and emotional control of toddlers blended with the guile of bored house cats. Fantastic. Telepathic distress signal. After the ascendant crafts, the Gnome's most activated distress signal can only be heard by creatures of telepathy, including any characters attuned to the Psi Crystal. You get to decide whether a non-telepathic creature can send a signal or not. The sonic transmitter broadcasts on an endless loop. If Warner Dread of X dies, it shut off. Signal has a range of 50 miles. Lucky few can detect it and send it out to the source. 50 miles. Well, obviously I can change that, but let's see what that looks like. Seems like it's gonna cover a good fucking distance. How east have my players have been? Caer-Konig? Might have to change that to like 20 miles. Jesus. God, right now the Goliaths are actually within 23 miles of Caer-Konig. Be a 10-mile radius would be appropriate. In fact, if it's gonna be literally, let's see, if I put this thing on the way to the Goliaths, means, well, you know, I could put it off, because then it would be within 10, you know, as long as the players get within whatever distance I decide, then it starts beeping and they can decide to go up there and explore it. So let's say they go, if they're going to the Goliath, they would leave from East Haven and travel just straight up 25 miles east. And at some point when they're, you know, near the river, maybe you would have it blinking and say, hey, this thing is thrumming like crazy all of a sudden, and it's pointing directly north. You know, whenever you get within like 10 miles, let's say. So I could say, I could change that 50-mile thing to a 10-mile. Might make more sense for my purposes. 50 miles covers the like entire region. A Pokeball. Fucking don't give Frey plasma grenades. Man, she loved that dynamite so much though. She loved it so much. Plasma grenades would be awesome. I feel like they have enough fucking pets, Pikachu, between first of all, between Edmund being able to restrain anybody, he's already got like offensive Pokeballs basically. He can throw them and restrain people. Also, he has a literal bag of tricks, which allows him to summon animals. And there was a third thing. I guess just Volrobin is our monster. What the hell was I thinking of? Oh, they got that Drillbot thing too that nobody's using. They've got enough ways to summon creatures. I don't want to give them any more of that. Signals a sequence of words in deep speech with a buzzing undertone. Any creature that understands deep speech and is sensitive to the signal can translate the message. Well, I would argue that anybody who's attuned to the Psi Crystal will be able to hear that, even though it's in deep speech, because it would be still telepathy. I feel like you would still understand that. And this is a hell of a quest hook. Are you kidding me? You get this message to your one player who's got the Psi Crystal, and they hear that while they're just trudging along the snow. Nautiloid down. Emergency protocols enabled. Crew safe, but vessel imperiled. Psi Crystal needed. Come at once. That is a badass quest hook. Like, you know, you're thinking, oh shit, this is a fucking spaceship out there. And we've got the device that can, like, repower it. Like, hell yeah. Definitely using that. The ship came down and dug a furrow through the snowy valley before skidding to a stop. The discussion is partly organic, and the tentacles protruding from the ship's bow are coated in mucus that remains sticky even in the extreme cold. Interior's a mess. Walls are covered with patches of flaky plaque. Equipment is scattered everywhere. Very global transmutation. Like something tremendous and ominous. Looks like a cephalopod with slimy, ropey tentacles as thick as tree trunks. Has tried and failed to bury its immense bulk in the snow. Orin has 2 carrion crawlers as trained pets. Characters paralyzed by the crawler's tentacles are dragged toward the Nautiloid. The creature's intent is not to eat the characters, deliver them to Vorin for questioning. Ah! That's interesting. There's only like CR2, aren't they? Yeah. Although pretty strong for that CR. 50 hit points. They do have that awesome paralyzed tentacle move. Don't do much damage. You need them to be paired with other creatures. I could give them to the mine, the Illithids as like shock troopers. Be pretty fun. I don't know about using them as what I like the idea of is having outside the Nautiloid is my original idea of the fact that they've been going around experimenting on creatures and kidnapping them, and one of them was Celeste. And so outside of the Nautiloid, and that's partly how you can tease its existence, is have those egg containers that held people they'd been either kidnapping or working on or whatever, and have some of them be cracked open, and that's the ominous thing of like, oh, there was another creature here. Maybe there's like footprints in the snow. I guess there probably wouldn't be by now, but and then I can use whatever creatures were in there as some kind of hostile enemies that maybe the players have to deal with. I could either like one or two like really powerful things, or maybe a mix. Probably be easier to do fewer creatures because it makes sense they would target, or it makes sense it wouldn't be like a huge bunch of those eggs. Shardolin crawl. Yeah, you could always take something and modify it. That's true. But the crazy thing is, because these things have been going around kidnapping creatures, I could literally use anything. The only caveat is it kind of has to be something that's been able to survive for like 2 weeks roaming around this area. That is a bit trickier. But can even use something that's not necessarily in this campaign. So definitely use that, because that would be my like random road encounter. And then when they actually get to id Ascendant, I would have another combat encounter. They can explore the outside a little bit, and then when they make it inside, that would actually turn on the automated defenses. And I like the idea of literally like fucking gun turrets coming up and blasting, and then I don't know, some kind of maybe some kind of robot type defender would be cool. You could use Shield Guardian would probably work pretty well. In fact, I think there's Shield Guardians in here. Shield Guardian with a bunch of machine guns seems pretty appropriate for these level of players. They're gonna be level fucking 9, and they'll be fully rested when they get out here. Where are you, Shieldy? And some mammoth carcasses. More mammoths. CR7, AC 17, 140 hit points, and just fists like crazy. And it regenerates. It's got a reaction. They're just tanky as hell. Be a pretty good mix. You could probably flavor it as any, or you could use the Shield Guardian. Looks kind of AC, but if I wanted to, I could change something out. Oh, Nate's got the page number. You got some ideas? All right, I'm checking. I'm checking. That's the last thing I'm doing because it's been an hour. 327. Beasts. Oh, the Rime Worm. Yeah. This thing is cool as shit, and I will. There's like a 90% chance I'm gonna use it. I'm probably gonna save it for Caves of Hunger. But you could use it out here, and this would be an interesting, like, hey, these have adapted to the environment. You could argue that they were initially like creatures from somewhere else, even another planet, that have like adapted to it. But they're very cool. CR6, 100 hit points, and essentially has that same kind of like tentacle. The idea is they bite, or they grab you with the tentacles, and then they can do their bigger attack if you're grappled by them. You can also spray necrotic damage all over the place. This is see the picture of the Rime Worm on the Tome of Beasts. The other cool ice creature from this book. Iron Golem, yeah. The CR16 Golem, that's true. You could just use the look of it too. One Iron Golem is probably going to be way too powerful for these players to actually deal with, but that would be probably more appropriate looking. I could also just search constructs and see what the options are there. Yeah, that thing looks pretty cool. God, I remember at the end of is it Baldur's Gate 2, I think, where you're at like the elf town, and these fucking iron golems everywhere, and they're just the worst. They're immune to everything. Which, yeah, he's immune to everything. Fire, poison, psychic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. All the condition immunities. Any spell effect that alters form and magic resistance. And he absorbs fire damage. That would be a hell of a... That would be like you start this thing with a boss fight. That's like the equivalent of the day the Earth stood still. The dude with the giant... He's got the giant robot. Gort? Is Gort that the name? And that robot can just insta-kill anything. Good one. Good ideas. We did already have an Umber Hulk, yeah. Umber Hulk worked really well for that boss fight I had him in too. So yeah, another place where I have to scale it up. But I really like the idea of this location. I like the idea of front loading the fights, and then the twist is that instead of having to fight their way through this whole place, is not very big. Basically, once they get past the defenses, then they'll meet up with the Illithids, and then they can either decide, it's not gonna be 5, well, I guess 5-on-1. I'd have some other defenses in there too. There'd be some machine gun turrets or something, or maybe other stat blocks they can fight. And then they can choose to either defeat those Illithids or just work with them. But either way, the idea here is if you complete this place, you can basically use them to jet around. If they take over the place and defeat the Illithids, then they can kind of just jet around as much as they want. If they work with them, then it might be a case of, you guys can call us or something. Like we'll give you a device you can use to summon us, but we're not necessarily going to chauffeur you around. Maybe might be a deal. I don't know. But at this point in their level, there's really not a whole lot of other encounters I need to do. You could almost just montage, like, yeah, you find a bunch of like hungry wolves and you fight them off or something. Like there's just not. We're at like nearing the end of tier 2. As I sneeze like crazy. All right, with that, I think we are going to shut down this edition of Crafting Icewind Dale. So I go blow my nose. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Adam, Stan, William, I'm Loud, Kyle, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic, Roleplay, Roll, and Lindsay. And gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, Newman, Marcus, Dead Lizard Lounge, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, and Scott. Thank you all very much for your support. See you all for Crafting Icewind Dale on Thursday.